Hi, I'm Shannon Mouton Gray, and welcome to this month's Tips in 20 webinar. We here at McKinney Associates enjoy bringing you these monthly presentations to help you do and be better. It's our goal to provide you with practical information and little tips that you can use almost immediately. Once the PowerPoint is over, you got to stay till the end. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And so we're going to go ahead and get started, okay? I want to give a shout out to my producer, Stephanie, the intern. She's great. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone.
So let's jump right into it, shall we? As you may remember, those of you who were with us last month, we covered tips on giving constructive criticism. Today is part 2 on how to receive constructive criticism. For today, excuse me, I'll be using the words constructive criticism, feedback, and critique interchangeably. So feedback, critique, and constructive criticism are synonyms for us today. Okay, folks? As always, you know I like to be clear about our language and terminology. So, constructive criticism is the process of offering valid and well-reasoned opinions about people's work in a friendly manner. It's valid, well-reasoned opinions about someone's work in a friendly manner. Now, these are tips on how to accept constructive criticism and feedback. Remember, feedback really is our friend. It's a key part of any job and actually life. And without it, we can't improve and grow. Ooh, McDreamy. Anyway, always, always, always double and triple check your work. After you've finished and before you submit it, at least go through it one more again. This can help you to avoid silly little mistakes and ensure you won't be bothered with minor faux pas. Now, we have to remember, we are all works in progress. We are constantly changing, and we have to accept that we are not perfect. We will make mistakes. Big ones, small ones, and in between size as well. And it is really okay. The important thing is what we can learn from them and then how not to repeat them. Now, go back to what I said at the beginning. The purpose of feedback is to help us do and be better at our jobs. We need feedback. It helps us change bad work habits into new and more productive ones. We want to be in the moment. When it's time for that conversation, yes, I know it's hard to hear and listen to someone say not so pleasant things about your work. And yes, some of it may be even a little subjective. And there are those who give feedback and tend to be a little catty. Well, however, you don't want to ignore the critique, because if we do, we're likely to repeat the mistakes again. And this, repeating the mistakes, can have long-term negative impact on our careers. When we get ready to go in for our review and feedback, we need to check our egos at the door and use our active listening skills to really hear what's being said, not what we think is being implied. We need to hear the words that are coming out of the reviewer's mouth and try not to add our personal interpretations. Sometimes we have to bite the bullet. This is hard because it forces us to put on our big girl and big boy pants and take responsibility for our mistakes. It's much easier to throw someone or our team under the bus, especially if they didn't do what they were supposed to. However, taking responsibility is a sign of leadership, maturity, and growth. Now, we have to try not to be defensive. If we have to, we can go to our happy places. And when we're there, consider the question, what can I learn from this feedback? If I can agree with my reviewer on at least one portion of the criticism, then I have opened myself up to learning and doing better. Then the focus of the conversation can shift, and we can then start to talk about how we can work together and improve my outcomes, my work, which ultimately will help to improve the product, services, and the company. Relax, relate, and release. Staying angry or upset can impact our work and relationships. We have to listen to the critique, learn from it, and then put the mistakes out of our minds. Focus on doing our best work, on improving, on growing, on continuing to be the best we can be. And finally, we have to remember, it is our work being criticized, not us. Work really hard to try to not take it personally. Well, those are our 10 tips, folks. So this was about 10 tips in about 5 minutes here. But don't go anywhere because we're getting ready to go to the Q&A portion. Oh, before we get to Q&A, I forgot. We are hosting our next Twitter chat on Wednesday, August 3rd. That's 1 week from today at 2 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. Well, actually different channel because it's on Twitter and not a webinar, but you get where I'm going. So follow at MCKPR or search for Social Justice Chat and participate with us, and we'll be having a really good time. They've gotten very active and very high-spirited and very just informative and educational. They've become really actually a lot of fun. So we hope you can join us next week, August 3rd, for our Twitter chat. And yes, now it's time for the Q&A portion of the program. So place your tray tables in the upright position and hand your trash to the attendant as they make their way through the cabin. And don't forget to type your questions in the Q&A box. As always, we have crowdsourced questions from Twitter, so we're going to start with those. Thanks for pulling these together, Stephanie.
Oh, you're welcome, of course.
First, why is it important to receive constructive criticism? Constructive criticism is important because it's how we grow, how we develop, and how we evolve. One of the ways. If you're chugging along, you're doing good, you're doing good, you're doing good. If no one says you can do better, then you keep on doing good, keep on doing good. Well, you can do good, but then we can do better. And then we can do better. And then we can do better. And typically those changes in our attitude, in our performance, in our output only come when we're called on it. And when someone points out to us that, you know, this needs to be improved, you should try working on this, this can be done better. And so once it's pointed out, as my grandma used to say, once we know better, then we'll do better. And grandma was always right. Next question. What should you do if you receive criticism for a mistake that is not your fault, but you don't want to throw a coworker under the bus? This is a really good one. I can say as a leader and someone who's led teams, there have been plenty of mistakes that have been made that were not my fault. However, because I was leading the team, they were my responsibility. And so as the leader, I had to take responsibility for the mistake, even though I wasn't personally responsible for it. Whether or not you agree with Obamacare is not where I'm going right now, so just go with me. The former chair of Department of Health and Human Services, while she was not building the website, the ACA website, the disaster that came about at the launch, she was responsible for it, regardless of whose fault it is, be it the web team, be it the designer, be it the developer, be it the people, the contractor, none of that matters. This came under her. It was her responsibility. So she took the blame and she fell on her sword and resigned. Again, that's a sign of leadership. It's a sign of maturity, and it's a sign of growth. And it's something, again, we can all learn from. I can guarantee you she learned a few things. Next question. What's the best way to respond if the criticism feels personal? If the critique starts to feel personal or is personal from the beginning, first and foremost, do not respond immediately. Try not to get defensive, because once you get in that defensive posture and respond defensively, the conversation shifts. The atmosphere and tone of the conversation can shift and go in a direction that can go very badly, very quickly. And in the long run, you'll be the one who pays for it. So if the words coming out of the reviewer's mouth, are personal in nature, then make a mental note. If you're not taking notes, make a mental note and respond later via email or another conversation. If this is a professional annual review or performance review and you have documentation, then you can respond point by point to the documentation. If though you're feeling that, if you're feeling that it's a personal attack and it's based on the reviewer's posture, their tone, their attitude, don't interpret anything that may or may not be there. Again, go on what the person is saying. That's what you can refute. Because if this gets escalated and you say, well, and you were both in HR and you say, well, the person was hostile towards me, and the person in HR says, how, or what did they say? You can't sit there and say, well, they were rolling their eyes and had their arms folded. Oh, okay. No, you want to be able to report what the person said. So again, you really want to try and be an active listener and focus on what is being said. Again, a person's attitude, their demeanor, their tone may be impacted by 1,000 other things that happened before your meeting, by things that could have happened at home with their review, with other people, with the dog, you don't know. So this is where you really have to listen to what's being said, not what you think is being implied. Okay? And do you have any specific tips on how not to add in your own personal interpretation and hear the helpful criticism? This kind of piggies back on that question. Let me say this. If it is about a specific project, and you actually feel and you believe it's starting to get personal, then you can ask questions to direct the conversation back to the project. A criticism a lot of times that people receive is that, well, I don't like your attitude. Your attitude was not professional. Your attitude was dismissive. Your attitude was rude. And so this caused the project because you had a rude attitude and you were short-tempered, the team didn't operate at the highest level, which meant the project was turned over late. What you can do is shift the conversation back, take it off the attitude and go and talk about the project being late and why it was late. Again, not your attitude. Attitude is something that's really very subjective. Again, who knows what you were going through when you were directing the project? There could have been 1,000 other things happening in your life. So you really want to focus on the work. The project was late because the deliverables got backed up. These two people were out on vacation. You want to be factual. You want to be able to point out specific things that you have control over, that you can change, that you can manage. Now, if you do have a really unpleasant attitude, then you need to check yourself and, go have some fun and go for a walk and enjoy life and be grateful and glad for whatever you have, because there are always people who are worse off. Now, I'm done preaching. But again, focus on what's being said. Try not to take it personal. A good critique really does focus on your work and the outcomes of the work. If the critique you feel is unfair, then most companies have places for you to make redress and to discuss it with the next level up following the chain of command. And so that would be your next level of recourse. Do we have any questions? I don't see any.
Nope, that's it.
Okay, well, this has been a quick tips in 20. Actually, how much time do we have left?
5 minutes.
Oh, okay, not too quick, not too short. So, I'm Shannon Mouton Gray from McKinney Associates, and I do want to thank you for being with us today. You can find us on the internet at mckpr.com. You can also find us Twitter, Facebook, SlideShare, and YouTube, where this video will soon be in a very short minute. And let me remind you, thank you, Stephanie, that we will be off in August. Yay, beach! Because I'm looking a little manila folder here. So we're going to get some sun. So we're taking August off, and we will see you back in September where we will resume our great Tips in 20 webinar. So again, thank you for joining us, and you have a great day.